In this dashboard, I have already applied a filter from my slice object over here. I selected Italy as my current country. You can see it down here, but more importantly, you can see these three dynamic text boxes. They seem very identical, but there is a difference. If I go here to select a different country, like France, it will of course reflect in these three text boxes. Also, if I select multiple countries like Germany, France, and Italy, everything goes well. The only problem occurs when I select nothing. So if I do a drill out, I will have selected nothing. And now, notice the difference in these three dynamic text boxes. The first one says data for, nothing. The second one says data for Canada, Denmark, France, etc., etc. In fact, it's trying to display the full list of all my countries. In my opinion, only the third one is giving a meaningful text. Since we haven't selected any specific country, we're currently looking at data for all countries. If we want to examine how this has been set up for each of the text boxes, first we'll need to switch to designer mode. The first text box, this one, has been set up with some fixed text, data for, and some dynamic text. You add dynamic content with these curly brackets. We can jump right into it by clicking the dynamic part here, and then we can see that this has been set up as criteria content from the country dimension. The advantage of this is that it will tell you the exact criteria that apply from this dimension. In that sense, it is not entirely incorrect to say that it's data for nothing up here, because right now we don't have any criteria from the country dimension. However, it doesn't look good just to leave it blank here, and end users will find it less useful and may even think it's an error. The second one, also using dynamic content, makes use of the members option. This one will always tell you for which members we are currently seeing data. So again, trying to display all countries in this list is not incorrect, but it is just too much information for the end user. And as in this case, it may be hard to fit all the information into the text box. So how has the last one been done? Let me explain it by going to this simpler dashboard where we are focusing on the third option only. Here we have data for Italy or data for Germany, or when I select none of my countries, it will show this text, data for all countries. By the way, this text could be, of course, be anything else. In my object list over here, I have a couple of alternatives currently hidden, such as no country selected, or please select a country, or any other text that you think is suitable right here. So this text box is nothing but a text box with some static text and a bit of formatting with regard to font style and colors. The other text, when a country has been selected, is in fact a bar chart. It must be a bar chart or any of the other data-bearing objects because I use the required criteria feature to hide the object when no criteria have been selected from my customer country dimension. And when no country is selected, the required criteria work to hide the bar chart, and then we can see the static text box behind it. The sequence of the bar chart and the text box in the object list make sure that my bar chart goes in front of my text box when it is activated and then visible. For the bar chart to look like a text box, it has been necessary to tweak the bar chart somewhat. The text we are seeing is in fact just the title of the bar chart, using the criteria dynamic content to display which countries are currently selected. Also, I had to change the dimension axis to not show any labels and not show any axis lines. Likewise, on my measure axis, no labels and no axis line. Last, I made sure that any bars would also appear invisible by setting the object color to a fully transparent color. So this is how I made the third criteria explanation in this dashboard, showing the country criteria as dynamic content in the bar chart title when selecting one or more countries, and when making a drill out, having selected no specific country, it is using the required criteria setting to hide the bar chart and to show the underlying text box with the static text data for all countries.